I am here to talk with you a little bit about our Better Box, and then Sue Fazy from TLC Country Floral will be here, and I'll be talking a little bit about some cooking shortcuts that I do in the kitchen too. I know some of you have maybe not fully understood or had some questions in regards to what our Better Box is. We call it a Better Box because we prefer seconds. So that way we're helping the producers be able to sell things that maybe they wouldn't be able to sell otherwise, since this year they missed out on spring markets. And then it gives a better value to you, so you're spending less money and getting more produce. Maybe there's a little dent in it, maybe the corner of the chocolate is a little warped, but fact of the matter is it all tastes the same, it all tastes great. So we take some of the imperfections because we want to help people be able to sell, and we want good food that we can afford. In our Better Boxes, they're $65, and the way they come together is I go on the Friday before, and I drive out to Spalding, Nebraska, to Hooper, Nebraska, to the edge of Fremont, and then we usually have a guest producer from the state of Nebraska where we have one item that comes from them. And from those producers, we end up having things that are pretty for your home. We've had dried flowers, we have had succulent plants, we have had some baked items, so we've had muffins, we've had baked breads, we have tons of produce. We try to always have one type of protein, so it's either cheese, eggs, pork, beef, chicken, bacon. We try to keep that varied. We've also had ice cream from Spalding, which I have not had anyone yet say it was short of awesome. We've had chocolate from Lincoln, we've had coffee from Lincoln at the mill. And what we do with these boxes is gather all that stuff together so you can do one stop, pick it all up. You're supporting local, you're getting more bang for your buck, and you're not having to go out during this time of COVID and be in contact with so many people. We encourage you to wear masks when you come in to pick up your Better Box. Our building is never full of people, it's cleaned daily, so it's a safe, clean environment to come into and out of. Our goal is to be able to provide you a really good opportunity to have nutritious food at a fair price and to make you not have to do all the work. So with that being said, what we're going to do today is talk about what do you do this time of year when you have zucchini the size of baseballs, when you have more tomatoes than you need, when you have a bunch of spices and you just don't know what to do with them. So we'll start off with Sue, the queen of cooking.
Thank you, Ginger.
You're welcome.
And I do want to reiterate, the Better Box is an amazing thing because not only are you getting healthy produce and meats and cheese, sometimes eggs, that are usually produced organically, but they're healthy for you, helping to boost your immune system, especially in this time of COVID. Everybody says wash your hands, wear a mask, don't touch your face, and true, very true. But boost your immunity by consuming some of these foods. And yes, it's overwhelming sometimes when you get a CSA box and you've got all this produce and you have no idea what to do with it. So this morning I'm going to just give you a few little ideas of what you can do. All healthy recipes. Most people here know me as the fermenting queen. And yes, I am kind of the fermenting queen. Anyway, we all know about probiotics and gut health. Well, this is a salsa recipe. Very easy to put, very easy and simple to put together, and it's fermented, so it has the probiotics. Another thing that everyone is very concerned about right now is bacteria. Everyone thinks all bacteria is bad, and that is just not the case. Scientists are becoming aware that our bodies are formed and stay healthy more because of bacteria, and bacteria has more of an effect on our bodies than even our DNA. And that's what we're doing when we ferment foods. We're creating foods that contain good bacteria, and often the bacteria consumes and digests the things that our bodies have a difficult time doing. So the salsa recipe is really easy. I just use a food processor to put it together. 7 cups of chopped tomatoes, and it doesn't matter what kind of tomato you use. You can use heirlooms, Romas, a paste tomato, regular tomatoes. 3/4 of a cup of diced onion, 3/4 cup of diced peppers, and the pepper that I use is called Fulju, and it is like a jalapeno. It looks like a jalapeno, but it doesn't have the amount of heat that a jalapeno does. So if you do like things a little more spicy and you use a jalapeno, you may want to adjust the amount of peppers used in this recipe. 1 tablespoon of finely ground pink Himalayan sea salt, a tablespoon of minced garlic, a teaspoon of dried oregano, 2 teaspoons of lime juice, and a teaspoon of, I use dried cilantro because usually when the tomatoes are ready, the fresh cilantro is done in the garden. Optional is a 1/2 cup of whey, but we're using all fresh ingredients, so the whey really isn't particularly necessary. If you don't know what whey is the byproduct of straining yogurt through a cheesecloth, and it's the kind of clear yellowish colored liquid that comes off of that. It's like a good starter for certain ferments. So I just do everything in the food processor, and I put it in a bowl, and then I let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes, and you can almost instantly see it bubbling. And that's the neat thing about fermented foods. It's food that is actually alive. It's not a dead food, so it's so much healthier and better for our bodies. So just mix the ingredients up, allow it to macerate for just a few minutes. Just simple quart jar, pint jars. And do leave a little room in your jar for expansion, because as the salsa ferments, you will see it will rise to the top. And then I just use the plastic storage lids. These are usually, I think Baker's has them. You can find them at Walmart. You can order them online. But it allows the jars to breathe a little bit because gases do build up when you ferment. So you don't want to take a chance on ruining a jar. This just smells heavenly. And what an easy snack, especially for some of the new moms that are homeschooling now. Fresh salsa with some healthy chips or veggies. Okay, so then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these jars and just leave them sit on our counter. This is a very short ferment. There's no need for weights or to make sure it's submerged, because every day we're gonna go in and open these jars, and we're going to stir everything in the jar to keep it nice and fermented. And short ferment, about 3 days, put it in your refrigerator, and it's good to be consumed. Ginger, do you have a towel? Please. I'm a messy cook, you know.
That's
Thank
a
you.
good cook.
My husband would probably disagree because he's usually the one that is cleaning up my messes.
What a nice guy.
Okay, then I also wanted to show you, we do garlic cloves fermented in honey, because this is like, if you start feeling bad or ill, just take some of the honey and a little bit of garlic. You can mince the garlic, eat it on toast or a roll or a piece of bread, put it on a salad. And I have had, this is probably one of the most popular ferments that I do. We happen to grow our own garlic this year. And if you want to give it a try, garlic you plant in the fall, and you plant the individual cloves. This particular variety comes from Canada, so it will take our Nebraska winters, and you plant it in the fall the individual cloves, and then you harvest it around June. And some of these garlic cloves are about the size of a quarter.
That's like elephant garlic.
It is almost like elephant garlic. Garlic is really easy to grow in your garden. So just peeled garlic, and you want the jar about 1/2 to 3/4 full, and then use good quality honey. A lot of the honey that's available in the grocery store isn't really even real honey. So try to find it locally if you can, and use raw honey. Raw honey has not been processed through heat. Heat kills all the beneficial properties of honey. And then just take the honey and cover the garlic cloves. Again, leave a little room for expansion, and don't worry if your honey is crystallized. There's probably enough liquid in the garlic to thin the honey out.
That's a great way to use your crystallized honey.
Mm-hmm.
And I did these after we did your first fermenting class.
Uh-huh.
And I've got them in my apartment, and they're a beautiful kind of red color.
Yes.
And if I'm feeling a little run down, I pop a garlic clove.
It makes a difference
It
too,
does.
doesn't it? Then just, you can use a regular mouth lid for this, and it takes about 30 days for this particular ferment to be ready to consume. So since school has started, it'd be a good idea to get this going right now. You can see and then just open the lid and swirl the honey around the garlic every day. And that is not necessary to refrigerate. You can just, when it's done fermenting, just keep it in like a dark kitchen cabinet, and then use it as you need to.
Presents for you. Well, one present.
Our mail carrier's here.
Just another little quick recipe. This is a beet salad with a tarragon vinaigrette. The vinaigrette is a cup of red wine vinegar, 1/4 of a cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of oil, a tablespoon of fresh minced garlic, 1/2 teaspoon of dried thyme, 1/2 teaspoon of dried tarragon, a teaspoon of dried oregano, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. Just mix it all together in a pint jar and give it a good shake. And then I have probably about 4 cups of beets from the garden in this bowl. And we're just gonna toss that over. And I know beets you either love them or you hate them. We're 50-50 in my house. I love them, my husband won't touch them. But even people who don't like beets tend to like this salad. And if you need any of these recipes, I don't know if we can post a link in the comments, Ginger.
Absolutely.
Or you can go to the website, it's tlcinthekitchen.com, and you can find the recipes there. There's also some other really easy recipes on that website. And how many of you have 45 zucchini sitting on your kitchen counter? If you do, you're not alone, because I do too. This is a Perderno spiralizer, and I use this to make zoodles, which are zucchini noodles. And I want to show you how it works, because you can use zoodles as a substitute for pasta in recipes. Zoodles are also really good just warmed up and tossed with real butter, garlic, salt, and pepper. There's a little handle on here that moves forward as you push the zucchini forward, and there's prongs on this little handle to hold the zucchini in place. And then there's a blade that can easily be removed and cleaned. And this particular model has like 3 or 4 different blades with it, so you can make different sizes of things. This is an Amazon purchase, and last time I checked, they were still less than $40. Oops. Let's put a straighter cut on him. some of the KitchenAid mixer attachments have spiralizers on them too. And we have zoodles. Now I will do some of the zoodles, and I will dehydrate them in my dehydrator and then put them in the freezer to store so that we can have these in the winter time also. Another kind of a fun thing to do if you get cauliflower in your box is cauliflower rice. And I usually use the food processor to make the cauliflower rice. Don't have a food processor, something like Grandma's little box grater works just fine too. It just takes a little longer. We made this last night, and I made it like a Mexican rice kind of. I added some salsa to it and a little bit of cheese, and it was really good. And it does actually look like rice. Also makes a great substitute for real rice for if you're having a stir fry. So that's something kind of fun to do too. Ginger's going to talk a little bit about air fryers. I think that's an appliance that a lot of people have in their kitchens right now. One of the things that I do with an air fryer that's really easy, especially for lunch, just a quick meal and easy to make, might be a good thing for a lot of the new homeschooling moms to make a quick and healthy lunch for their kiddos. Just take a flour tortilla and spread it with marinara sauce, or you can even use salsa or very thinly sliced tomatoes. Top it with a little bit of cheese, pop it in your air fryer at 425 for maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, and that's a healthy snack. I load mine up with vegetables. I've used cauliflower, thinly sliced zucchini, toss a few herbs into it. Very, very easy, quick lunch. Okay, I think Ginger's going to talk about doing some infused
Liquor.
vodka. So I'll let Ginger jump in.
Okay, I'm multitasking, so you'll see me fly by really quick. So, I adopted a kitten, and I have a senior cat who had surgery. So I forgot a couple things this morning. So my mom, Gail, is helping toast walnuts as I talk to you. The first thing I want to talk about is spices. I love fresh spices, but I am horrible at utilizing them all, and I feel really, really guilty when I have to throw them out. So something that I've researched and started doing is I put them in alcohol. So I will infuse vodka with different spices, or sometimes I just let them sit on my counter and dry, put them in a loose bag, and then set them in the freezer, or set them in a cupboard that's really dark and cool. That way I can use them later as winter comes on. But this year I've got a lot of basil. So one thing that I'll be showing you guys today, which is about a two-step, really easy process, is some vodka infused basil. And then I'll also be doing some vodka that's infused for Bloody Marys. So the first part, you need a little jar, and you need some fresh basil. Pretty easy. You put it in the jar. Then you grab some vodka. Thank you. You're welcome. And you can use cheap vodka. That's the nice thing. I am not, because this is what I have on hand. Something else that I read is you can take cheap vodka and run it through a Brita pitcher numerous times through the filter, and that will help take out some of the impurities, and it's supposed to improve the quality of your vodka. So that's an option. And as you
Maybe
can,
that vodka's fermented a little bit.
and as you can tell, I'm not the video cook. That's Sue, so I'm going to be a little disjointed. But from what I have done is I make sure that I cover it. So I get it all in there, saturated. They say don't put in a lot more vodka than you have with the spice. So if you can see here, it's just covered. I'll shove a little section down. Put a lid on nice and tight. I like to use mason jars. Then let it sit on your counter for about 3 days. At that point, filter it out through a cheesecloth. After that first filter, if you still have some sediment, if it still looks cloudy, filter it again and then put it in your fridge. The basil infused vodka you can get really creative with. I have had it in drinks where you use fresh strawberries or fresh berries. So you can do a little bit of a sweet angle. If you have a food processor, a Ninja blender, you could throw in some strawberries, some peaches, a little bit of honey, some of this vodka, a little bit of ice, a little bit of lemon juice, blend. So that's something that you can kind of play with to your taste or your flavor. For a sweet angle, if you want something a little saltier or more savory, you could throw in a little tomato juice, you could throw in a fresh tomato, a little bit of ice, some lemon, some lime, maybe a little bit of a dried chili pepper if you like spice. Blend it up and there you go. So it's a great way to use up extra spices versus not knowing what to do and wasting something that in the wintertime you will wish you had and you will spend good money on. So there's your basil infused vodka. Next, we'll do our Bloody Mary vodka.
Oh, this looks amazing already.
I know.
Yeah.
This one I'm pretty excited about. So, in your head, you can decide, what do I like in Bloody Marys? Maybe some people want to go a basil angle, some people want to go dill. I went dill because Sue has dill. I know I shouldn't have dead air, but I can tell you guys are just suspensefully waiting, or maybe I'll go to the restroom really quick if you need to wait.
That smells wonderful.
The minute you open the Ziploc bag. Ha ha. So, this
Dill
is
a favorite.
it is. This is going to be similar. You want to make sure that you cover everything with your alcohol. So I'm going to start with the dill, since dill is kind of fluffy and spiny and floats around or could float to the top. And I'm heavy on spice. So when I do this, I do a decent amount of what I'm putting in this jar. Put in your fresh dill. Our farmers markets have it right now. Some grocery stores sell it, not many. And it's really easy to grow. It basically
Very
grows
easy
like a
to
weed.
grow. You just basically plant one plant, and if you let it go to a seed head, it will automatically just seed down in that area.
Easy. That's the kind of stuff I like to grow outside.
And monarch caterpillars, it's worth growing dill just for monarch caterpillars because they feed on it.
Really?
Yeah, monarch caterpillars love dill. My dill patches succumb to the caterpillars every once in a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they love it.
Way to help
So
the
fun to
butterfly
watch them.
population.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
like that. And this year there were more monarch butterflies. That made me happy because
Lots
for a
of-
while they were struggling.
Yes, lots of butterflies this year.
Good. Okay, so shove in your dill or your basil or whatever type of herb you want as that herb base. Then I went ahead and I cleaned and cut a big clove of garlic in half. I cleaned some celery. Who doesn't love some good celery in their Bloody Marys? I'm an onion girl, so I cut up one green onion. Thanks. Tomatoes on the loose. And some cucumber. You don't usually think of cucumber for this type of stuff, but it works great. And I'm doing cherry tomatoes because you can kind of shove them in wherever. Thanks, Sue.
You're welcome.
I had a rogue cherry tomato. It jumped off the table. So I cut them in half. That way the juice gets out. Because sadly, you can try to eat this stuff. It packs a heck of a punch, but it really doesn't taste that good when you take it out. So Try to squish as much of that stuff as you can in there. And then some lemon. So I've got a nice big fat wedge of lemon. I'm gonna squeeze it ahead of time to get some of that lemon juice out and then just shove it down. You can put salt in here if you want. I don't. I figure you can salt the rim of your glass if you want salt. That way it's a little more versatile, because maybe you have someone who doesn't like salt that will be drinking your Bloody Marys with you. Or because it's COVID, maybe you're gonna drink them all yourself, and that's okay. Wouldn't blame you one bit. I think that's about all I can pack in there.
What a beautiful jar.
Isn't it? And this type of stuff, it just makes really great decor for your counters.
Absolutely.
You know, who needs to go buy a bunch of prefab stuff that has no sentimental meaning? This you can use.
This has a purpose.
Yes. And this is another nice little thing I found years ago. Bacon flavored vodka. On its own, I don't love it. In things, yes. So I thought, we'll use the bacon flavored vodka for our Bloody Mary vodka. It's the same thing. Make sure everything covers up good in there. You'll set it on your counter for about 3 days. When those 3 days are done, you're gonna take it and strain it through cheesecloth a couple times if needed, because you wanna get all the sediment, all the little floaties out. And then when it's done, you'll take that extraction and put it in your fridge and have a Bloody Mary ace. So with that, you can do that for anything. You can do it for different fruits, different vegetables, different herbs. Get some vodka. You could get some rum if you're a rum person. Shove it all in there, let it sit on your counter for a few days, filter it, strain it really well, and put it in the fridge. And then when your friends come over, or they sit in your backyard 6 feet away, you can tell them that you're having custom handmade, drinks that if you went out, you were going to spend $15 to $20 for. And here you just get to make it out of what's left out of your garden or a better box.
Raw apple cider vinegar is good to use too for an infusion.
Oh, yeah.
And it's great for salad dressings. And I choose the raw apple cider vinegar because it's a living food.
Okay.
And you can usually find that at any supermarket. It's under the brand name of Bragg's. And it'll say raw apple cider vinegar with the mother.
And that
because
stuff
it's a living food, so it's got to have a mom.
Makes sense. And that stuff has been around forever.
Yes.
I remember when I started working at Open Harvest in 1996. That was one of the first things that they talked to me about was the Bragg's brand of their amino acids, of their apple cider vinegar.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, they've been around for a long time. Definitely tried and true. I'm gonna take some of my stuff out of here. And then I'm going to tell you about a recipe, show it to you, and then we'll try and reproduce it quick for you guys. But we're on the beet page again. So if you can see this beautiful magenta color, if you're someone who thinks you don't like beets, which trust me,
there's a lot of people who don't like beets.
And up until about 6 years ago, I thought they were disgusting. They tasted like dirt. There was absolutely no use for them in my mind. But I had a friend who told me, you know what, shut up. You're going to eat the salad and I bet you'll like it. And she made a salad that had feta cheese. You could use goat cheese and toasted pine nuts, fresh greens, the beets, a little bit of balsamic vinegar. And it ended up being the sweetest, creamiest, most outstanding thing I'd ever tasted, because those beets, when you work with them correctly, they take on a sweetness that nothing else quite can duplicate.
Definitely.
So I have a recipe that a Better Box client, Claire Duchamp, shared with us, and I cannot get enough of. It's called garlicky beet dip with walnuts. So what you would need to make this dip is 1 pound of roasted beets, which basically means take your beets, clean them. I don't skin them yet. Bake them in a pot, bake them in some aluminum foil in the oven. When they're done, let them cool. Then the peels or the skin will just kind of slide off. Take the skin off, and then guess about a pound. It doesn't have to be exact. The first time you make it, you're gonna know, it was a little heavy on the beets, or maybe that wasn't enough. Trust me, it's gonna be edible if you have a little bit too much or not enough. You need a 1/3 cup olive oil, salt and pepper, a garlic clove, a 1/3 cup of toasted walnuts, pine nuts, hazelnuts, almonds, whatever kind of nuts you have on hand. And you can toast those in a pan. You can put them on a baking sheet in the oven. The baking sheet in the oven is nice, but you want to be prepared to watch them and have the time to watch, stir, or you end up burnt. I like doing them on the stove top because I can do it quick. Toss them and you're done. It takes 3 to 5 minutes at most. My mom is doing that today. You need a 1/4 cup of fresh dill, coarsely chopped, or if you don't have fresh dill on hand, just put in a lot of dill. I didn't measure it exactly. I like the taste of dill, and as you go through the dip and you get it all blended together, you'll taste and you'll know. It needs more, or next time I'll do a little less. I'm not a big, strict recipe follower. I'm someone who gets in there and tastes as I go, which isn't good later because I don't often remember how to do what I just did. But it makes it a little more free. My life is pretty structured, so when I get in the kitchen, I don't always like a lot of rules. So that's kind of my place where I get creative and where I can unwind. So sometimes I take a recipe like this for a base, keep it in my head, turn on some music, and just kind of get things going and taste and go. So it just depends how you are. Like I said, with that, I'm telling you the recipe, so you've got that option, or you can just write down the basics and get creative. You also will need a 1/2 cup of sour cream or a 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt. And what you'll do is you'll take all of this stuff, throw it in a blender, throw it in a Ninja, throw it in a food processor, and just keep blending until you get your desired consistency. I liked it creamy. I've used it on pretzels, which having the salt and the crunch of the pretzel and the sweet of the beet and that garlic hit was an awesome combo. My mom used it with celery. I've used it with cucumbers. So this is another really good way to get beets used up. You could make this and freeze it. So in the middle of the winter, if you decide, oh, I wish I had something that tasted like summer, you've got it. And with this being said, this is a really good Weight Watchers option. That's something that I have used on and off throughout my life, and it's been a very beneficial way for me to work with my weight. So if you're a Weight Watchers person, this is a great way. You can go ahead. I think I divided it up, entered the recipe, and out of this whole batch, 20 servings, each serving is 2 points. And that's a decent amount. So if you did a whole serving of pretzels, if you did a whole bunch of celery or cucumbers, you could enjoy dipping
Or
enough
zucchini.
on there. Or zucchini, carrots, and that too. If you don't have beets on hand, or you really just are not convinced that you like them at all, no matter what, you could substitute baked carrots or baked sweet potatoes for this. And you'd have a similar starch-based, really good, dense.
Sweet potatoes would be wonderful.
I think so. Between the dill and the garlic,
Yes.
it wouldn't be bad. So this is another good option for summertime with your beets. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about air fryers. I was skeptical about them at first because I don't like kitchen appliances. They take up space. I think they're a pain in the butt. I'm just someone who has always gravitated towards a pan and a spoon, but I had to surrender. I got one for Christmas and I fell in love with it. It makes life really, really easy if you're in a hurry, if you're single. I will set mine on the counter so you can see what it looks like. Give me a moment. This is the Magic Air Fryer. Mine is made by Gourmia. I received it for Christmas. It's got a little drawer that pulls out that has some panko coating in it that I brought down. And you get a little rack. And then a tray that pulls out that has these little rubber grips on the outside so it slides in and doesn't move around. And then a really deep bucket. You can see it's pretty deep that you can wash in the sink. It's lightweight, very easy. So what I do whenever I use this is I spray this on top with a nonstick spray. It makes your cleaning time half. Everything slides right off of it. Now that we're at this point where we have all these vegetables and we don't know what to do with them, if you buy some panko seasoning, you can get it at any grocery store. I beat 1 egg, put it in a dish, pour some panko into another dish, cut up your veggies, dunk them in your egg, dunk them in your panko, and set them on your tray You can do a second layer with your other tray. Put them in here under a French fry, like setting, or did you say 400?
400.
For how long?
I went 10 minutes, just like the French fry setting.
Okay, so 400 degrees, 10 minutes. And what you end up with is something that totally tastes like a deep fried piece of cauliflower, a deep fried mushroom. So if you're someone who likes veggies but you need a little jazz, you need a little crunch, now you're not messing with the deep fried oils. You're getting protein from the egg. You get this really crunchy option, and you could make a meal out of it. So let's say you've got a chicken breast, you've got a small steak, you've got seafood. Go ahead, set that on your bottom. So on this guy, if you want to throw a baked potato in there, set that on the bottom as well. Put some of your veggies in, or you could put them all on your top rack. So when you start this, about halfway through, you can check. If your vegetables are done, just take your rack out. Now your veggies don't get overdone. Put your drawer back in. Give it a few more moments. The meat is probably done. Take that out. Then you can use the remainder of the time on your baked potato. And by the time you're plating your food, getting it ready, setting it up at the table, your baked potato is done. So air fryers in the summer have become essential for me. It's a great way for me to use up my vegetables, and it doesn't heat up my kitchen. I live in an apartment that's in the upper level, and the front side of my building gets really hot. So if it's gonna create heat, I'm not gonna cook it. And this guy, it contains everything within the machine, so your kitchen doesn't get hot. Air fryers are pretty awesome. And I'll have Sue talk a little bit about the evolution of air fryers. When I was growing up, my mom had something called a jet stream. So if any of you at home have had a jet stream, this is kind of the newer version of it. The jet stream, you had to place things in a definite order, and it used convection air to cook everything inside. You didn't have to use oil, and it kind of utilized the oil from the meats to almost let it fly around inside, but just a thin enough coating to give things a crisp. And I know Sue talked about another apparatus that she had that I think came before the jet stream. So I'll have her talk about that.
Here, let me help you.
You can take the drawer.
You don't want anything to happen to your air fryer.
No! Thanks, sweetie.
The one that I have that I call the original air fryer it's an old Galloping Gourmet, and it's a big round glass bowl, and it has a lid with a motor and a fan and a heat source on the top of it. And I still use it once in a while, because like Ginger said, you know, when it's 105-degree heat index outside, you don't want to heat your kitchen up. So some of these methods are very easy to process the good food that is available right now, but without a lot of work and without heating your kitchen up. Another valuable appliance that I think that we all love is our Instant Pots, or it doesn't have to be the Instant Pot brand, it's the pressure cookers. Saves a ton of time. Also, Ninja and Instant Pot have blenders out now that have a heat source in them.
You're awesome!
They're wonderful. I'm getting quite a few tomatoes out of the garden, and I still have a whole pile of zucchini sitting on my kitchen counter. So just about every day I get that blender out, and I put in an onion, a couple sticks of celery, 4 or 5 basil leaves. I chop up a small zucchini, and then I fill the rest of the blender up with tomatoes, add a little bit of salt, add a little bit of pepper. I push a button, I walk away, and I've got the most delicious and thickest tomato basil soup that you'd ever wanted to have, which can just easily be put into a plastic container and frozen, so that we can enjoy that in the winter too.
Sue, what do you do with the gigantic zucchini this time of year?
Your mom and I were talking about our zucchini boats. That's something that we had this week. Just cut it horizontally, scoop out the meat in the middle, and just get rid of any of the large seeds. Use ground beef. I added a little bit of shredded zucchini. You can also put some rinsed and uncooked rice in with it.
Ooh.
And then put that in the well of your zucchini, and then again, here's my tomato basil soup thing. I covered it with the tomato basil soup, and I baked it in the oven at 350 for about an hour and a half. it was an excellent meal.
Uncovered?
I did cover it. I did cover it. And you know, all kids love cheese, so you can even top it with a little cheese, pop it back in and let the cheese melt.
And I've used it as a taco base. Like I'll make a taco, like you would do a taco salad in there,
Yes.
just minus the lettuce. Or I've done pizza, so you could throw in pepperoni, like whatever you need, veggies, a whole bunch of mozzarella cheese.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can just shred it. I know a lot of people like to make zucchini muffins, chocolate zucchini bread, regular zucchini bread. So you can go ahead and just shred it. You want to steam it or blanch it for a minute, cool it right down, then put it in a freezer safe bag and store it in the freezer so that you have that to use this winter. I like to take some and cube it up, blanch it, cool it down, freeze it so that we have some to use in the winter. It's good to use, throw in a soup. It's nice to do all these things and preserve them and save them. Another thing that we grow an awful lot of, and it's kind of, sometimes potatoes can be a little bit difficult to store if you don't have the right conditions. So I will freeze my potatoes in the form of mashed potatoes and hash browns. To do the mashed potatoes, just simply cook your potatoes, and if you're harvesting a lot of potatoes right now, you'll notice that the skins on them are very, very thin, and oftentimes when you wash the potato with a vegetable brush, the skin just comes right off. So I don't bother to peel them. I just cook them, then remove them from the water, mash them. I don't add any salt, pepper, or milk at that point. I'll put the bowl of mashed potatoes in the refrigerator to cool overnight. And then in the morning when it's cool, just take the mashed potatoes out, put them in a freezer safe bag, and toss them in the freezer. You need a quick meal this winter, you've got mashed potatoes ready to go. Just take them out of the freezer, let them thaw in the refrigerator. If there's any liquid in it, you can drain the liquid. Just add, after it's thawed, then that's when you want to add your butter, salt, pepper, and milk. Hash browns are also very easy to do. Cook your potato, then place your potato in the refrigerator to cool overnight so that they're nice and cold. And then just use, you can use like the old grater to do it, or a grater attachment on a food processor. And just shred your potatoes, put them in a bag, and place them in the freezer. And who doesn't fix an egg casserole with hash browns at Christmas time?
Exactly.
How wonderful to have your own hash browns to use for that recipe.
Well, and now with COVID going on, if you've got all this stuff from your garden or from the farmer's market or from your neighbor who gave you too much produce stocked in your freezer.
Yes,
if this ends up
absolutely. Get that,
being-
absolutely, get that freezer out. We all know that there's a big issue with food insecurity in our country, and I think we here in the Fremont area are particularly aware of it because we had issues with the grocery stores during the flood last year, and now this year with COVID. So the more locally sourced produce and food that you can gather right now when it's prime gardening season and preserve it. Freezing is very, very easy to do. I know canning is overwhelming to some people, and I do a lot of pressure canning. But again, I choose very carefully the days that I do it because it does heat the house up. So freezing is just very easy, very simple, and you don't have to be so cautious with the recipes that you use. As always, if anybody has questions, gardening questions, preserving questions, just reach out to us and we're happy to help. I think Ginger's going to put a link to some of the recipes in maybe the comment sections of the video. And we hope that this helps you eat healthier, boost your immune system, and stay healthy through all this COVID mess. Thanks for watching the video.